This is Vikcast. It's a Viking thing.
Rosslager.
Shield wall!
All of my life, and all of your lives, have come to this point. There is nowhere else to be but here.
No, I always knew I would love these Northmen.
This is Vikcast with Clive Standen and Amy Bailey.
And as the King of Wessex and King of Bretwalda, all of England, I order you to listen to Vikcast. It's a Viking thing.
The podcast direct from Valhalla.
Hi everyone, I'm George Blagden and I play Athelstan on Vikings, and you should tune into this incredible podcast, Vikcast. It's a Viking thing.
This is Vikcast.
Hi, I'm Clive Standen.
And I am Amy Bailey, and you are listening to Vikcast. It's a Viking thing.
So we are joined by Linus Roache, who's with us to talk about all things Saxon, Anglo-Saxon, Vikings, his experience on the show, and pretty much just a very good excuse for us to see his face again and all have a good old catch-up. Hey, Linus.
Yeah, welcome.
Hey, good to see you guys. This is amazing.
You know, I was going to say it's a shame we did a little, just so people who are listening, we did a little kind of setup with our lovely tech team. But when we initially saw your face, we all just wanted to smooch each other because it was so heavenly to see each other again after this.
That's wonderful.
It's really hard to miss each other so much.
Yeah. And we all look, well, I look very different anyway. Clive and I were talking about it. Clive's kept a bit of a beard, but by the end of the show, I was right down to below screen here. So that was a relief to take that thing off, and it hasn't come back. I've had a bit of a COVID beard, but it never got that long.
Nothing as bad as Linus the Wizard. It was a Gandalf beard going on.
Yeah. It's great to see you guys. Great idea to do this, by the way. I think, as soon as I got the email from you, I was like, yeah, I'm in. This sounds like fun. There's so much to talk about on this show, so I'm really excited to be part of it. And thanks for creating it. You're the two presenters, everything.
Well, we thought, everybody now, the show is all said and done. All of our characters are in Valhalla, maybe not Rollo, but the Saxons, for instance, they're all dead as well. Well, that was the thing. You're the character that said, I would sup with the devil if he showed me how to achieve my earthly goals. So you think he's with the devil? Do you think he's supping with the devil now?
He's probably still in purgatory, just spinning around, waiting for it. That's my hope, anyway.
Let's start with gosh, I have so many questions as your friend and castmate, but you were so knocked my socks off, brilliant in that role, Linus. I'm sure everyone will agree. But I'm curious how the role came to you, what your audition was like. Did you have to audition at all because you're such a pro? What was it like for you?
Well, I mean, I'm lucky I didn't have to audition, so I did get an offer. But I have to say it was one of those lean times in an actor's career when, I couldn't get arrested. I was going out to LA, I was penciled for this and nearly getting this, and they were interested in you for that, but nothing was actually happening. And then I was over in England with my dad, actually, and I got an email from one of my best mates who was working in Ireland, and he said, do you want to come to Ireland for the weekend? And I went, yeah, all right, well. So I got on a plane, went to Ireland. We drove right across Ireland to Connemara, got very, very drunk, had a riotous time. And he said to me, he was already on a great show, he was on Game of Thrones, but he said to me, God, there's this show here called Vikings. Oh, I'd love to be on that. I'd really love to be on that show.
Wow.
And anyway, this is no word of a lie. I flew back on the Monday morning, I got a call with an offer to play King Egbert in Ireland. And I was also offered another job in Ireland. And it was like some sort of magical thing had happened. And me and this friend of mine, I forgot to say, we hadn't seen each other for 10 years. And he continued to film in Ireland. So for the 3 years I was on the show, he was also there. So I had my best mate right next door. So it was almost like the universe said, it's meant to be. And I got on a call with Michael Hurst, who said a few sort of his sort of visionary things about what he saw for the role. And I was like, well, who is this guy? Who is King Egbert? I've no idea. And I really hadn't known about the show before. I'd seen a poster in New York, I think. So I quickly watched the whole of season 1 and went, okay, I'm in. I mean, it was just right from that first episode, Clive, with the two of you out there in the battlefield, you know, that first few minutes of episode 1. And
yeah,
I was in, but particularly, I think it was episode 8 or 9, that one that was called Uppsala, about the sacrifice. Do you remember that episode? That got me so deeply that I literally had to sort of stand up and walk around the room and get my bearings. I felt like I'd been sort of transported into another culture. And I thought, well, I definitely want to be part of this. Let's see where it goes. Because as you know, when you take on a role in long-form series TV, you kind of never know where you're going to end up, when they're going to kill you, or how long you're going to survive. You know?
Yeah. And I was excited when you were cast, your character, when I read him in the script, because until that point in the show, there had been no equal to Ragnar. You know, King Egbert is what Ragnar is to the Vikings, to the Anglo-Saxons. He's a free spirit. He's original. He's, you know, he questions things. He questions knowledge. He wants to learn. He wants to understand the cultures. I mean, he himself, you know, studied under Charlemagne when he was a young man, and he went away, which is, I suppose, what he has in common with Rollo as well. Rollo was the one that went to Francia at the tail end of the whole series. And it starts with your story as how you started in Francia and you learned that strategy. And that's why, I mean, because before then, King Aila, for instance, was just he's just a bad man who wants revenge, and he's just, you know, he's not really a tactician. So, I mean, how do you get into the head of a character? I mean, he's just as complex as Ragnar, in my opinion.
I did talk to Michael a lot about the sort of what you just mentioned, Clive, in terms of this guy had a bigger vision. There we were, you know, you had these kings of parts of England. England was separated into Northumbria and Mercia, and they were, if you like, they had their own domains. But the idea to be a visionary that could see further, like Ragnar did, he sought to go beyond his land into another one. And King Egbert, because of Charlemagne, would have had that. So I was very interested in that sort of vision of a leader. But in terms of how you embody it, I never quite know how you get inside these things as an actor. You read a lot, you talk a lot, you think a lot, you watch a lot, but in the end, I think for me, you know, they say about playing kings and leaders that in a way you have to have the guts and the balls, if that's the correct way to say it, to actually say, I am the one, I am the king. You have to do that, but you equally have to have everyone around you giving you that power. So I found, as well as thinking about it, when I got to work and get on the set and get those wonderful costumes on and be in those very authentic sets and suddenly just go, I am the king and I'm going to take control of the situation. And the way Michael had written it right from the beginning, there was something kind of meditative and contemplative and powerful. And it was something I felt I could really let go into and just sort of grab it, you know. And it was an opportunity that needed to be taken, and I felt like I gave myself permission to do it. And there've been other roles in my life where I didn't quite give myself that permission, but with this one, it was the right thing at the right time. And there's a little personal anecdote. There was somebody I'd met in my life, and I'm not going to go into who they are, but there was something about the way they would sort of put people on the spot. And I mean, some of those scenes in the bath, in the Roman bath, with my sort of noblemen around me, you know, Michael gave me dialogue that just fitted exactly what it was like with this guy who used to love just putting somebody right on their own back foot, just throwing them off kilter. And I thought, well, that's this mischievous part of this character. So it kind of started with that. And then it was just like, I think you guys can both speak to it, the journey on Vikings was a collaboration. And you started to build, and get more confident with it, and there was more trust in it. And then Michael starts responding to what you write, what you do.
Yeah.
He starts writing to it,
which is unusual,
very unusual. And then you end up
Yeah.
going out for dinner with him and drinking a whole bottle of wine. And before you know it, you've said some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And then the next day, the script arrives, and that crazy stuff, part of it's in the story. And you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is amazing. We're creating this together. And I don't know if your guys' experience has been like this on other shows, but I have had a little bit of that experience where people are standing over you and controlling it.
Yeah. Oh,
This
yeah.
felt very like we were just left to get on with it. It was Michael's show running it, and we had great producers who allowed us to just go to work. We had a fantastic team, and it didn't feel like anybody was censoring anything. It was just go to work and do it.
And empowering the directors as well. Empowering the directors to make decisions. I've been on shows where the directors are disempowered. It's like the writer is standing over them and saying, "Oh, I wrote this word. It has to be like this. I want that guy in that costume. He has to be in that." And yet we had none of that on Vikings. The directors seemed to be really in. Michael was in their ear. He was in, or she was in Michael's ear. And then by the time we got to set, everything just was worked like clockwork. We were able to just add our own input. And
very true. Very true. They felt that sense of ownership, and they could do something more original with their episode. And so I really felt like the whole experience, and I'm sure you guys have the same, you walk away going, this is just pure creativity. You're being creative, you know, and everything sort of came together. It was like a perfect storm in a way. So I'm just so glad, and I still get people coming up and saying, oh, they don't recognize me anymore.
I was about to say, do you get recognized?
They recognize you?
No, very rarely do I get recognized from it. But when people figure out, oh, you're the king, I suddenly realize how many people have seen this show, and it blows my mind.
Yeah, and it's growing. People. I get messages all the time. People saying like, "I've just started watching it. I've just discovered it." And this is, I left the show 5 years ago, and it's they're discovering it still. It's getting bigger and bigger. Can I ask you, just going back to you, I won't ask who this person was that you had in mind with Egbert, but Egbert, actually, full disclosure, is my absolute favorite character, and if there was anyone I could play on the show, it would be Egbert. I feel like people were torn whether he was a hero or a villain, which I think is the most flawless villain, really. He's unpredictable. That's what makes him so scary and mercurial. And did you consider this person that you modeled him after, do you consider him a villain or a bad person? I mean, it's that question that Ragnar asked you. Are you you asked each other, are you a good person or a bad person? What is your answer to that as Lioness?
Oh, you're asking me if I'm a good person or am I a bad person, Amy?
No, I'm asking if Linus thinks, well, I'd like to know that. Does Linus think Egbert is a good or a bad person?
Well, in a way, your question sort of puts it perfectly as how can we say, he did some very bad things, and he did some of them for some very bad reasons. And some of them, he was a futurist. He was an empire builder. He wanted change. And I think sometimes the people that see the future cause a lot of damage along the way, but they do create the future as well. So when you look back, you go, okay, it was destructive, was it really? They actually created something new, and they saw ahead. But yes, I mean, look, he had a massive ego, so let's not beat about the bush, and that's part of what you have to sort of grab hold of in the character and the role. And I think he wouldn't have stayed in power or done what he did, becoming Brett Walder, king of all England. He is technically, in fact, in one book I found, he is technically the first king of England.
Wow.
What I liked about what Michael had done and what we sort of built within it, and the fact that, that scene with Travis where we say, are you a good man? That this wasn't just done as this pure Machiavel. No, it's much more complicated than that. He was a human being, and there was great suffering and sacrifice, and a lot, actually, he paid a price for what he did, which is what is also fantastic to do as an actor.
Yeah.
As you know, to take a role on this massive journey, this massive arc, age over all those years and then have the weight of the conscience of the soul bearing down on you. I mean, that was so epic to do. I was just so grateful.
But he must know that what he's doing from the start, right? Because that's what I find fascinating about your character, is that on the surface he's friendly, he's understanding, he's for the country, for the people, but very quickly, and the audience turns out he's complete opposite. He's selfish, he's unscrupulous, he's a hypocrite. I mean, there's that amazing episode where he goes and he's outraged by the fact that